For over 1,000 years, chess has been more than just a game. It has been a battlefield of minds. Every move is a decision, every piece is a soldier, and every game is a war. Through the centuries, only a handful of players have risen above the rest. These are the greatest minds to ever sit across the board. William Steins, the father of modern chess. Emanuel Lasker, a warrior at the board. Capablanca, natural talent. Mikhail, the magician. Bobby Fischer, the American genius. Garry Kasparov, the fierce competitor, dominating with both tactics and preparation. Magnus Carlsen, the modern day king. But even among these giants, some games stand above the rest. These are the games that will never be forgotten. The ones that chess lovers analyze over and over again. The ones that leave even the greatest players in awe. These are the immortal games. Where a single move, a brilliant sacrifice, a relentless attack, and history is made. Welcome to 1000 Lives with Chess. Let me take you through a life of chess. This is the immortal game of the first official world chess champion, William Steinitz, playing the white pieces against Kurt van Badeleben. So, in this game, William played the opening e4 and black replied with e5. Then knight f3 and black replies with knight c6. And then c4, attacking the weak pawn on f7. And black replies symmetrically with bishop to c5, attacking this weak pawn on f2 as well. So now white plays c3, preparing d4 to take control of the center, and black plays knight f6, attacking this pawn while also just developing. White continues with the plan of d4, black takes, white takes back with the pawn, and bishop b4 from black to give a check, disrupting development of the white pieces. White plays c3, getting away from the check, but also pinning the knight, and d5 from black, which is a big miss because there was a free pawn. The knight could take the free pawn on e4, so that was a big miss. D5 from black, and white just takes, and knight takes, and then castle, short castle from white, getting away from the pin, the bishop to the knight, and bishop e6 played by black. White plays bishop g5, neatly attacking the queen, and bishop comes back to e7. White's bishop takes on d5, takes the knight on d5, bishop takes back on d5, knight takes back on d5, and the queen takes back on d5. And this bishop is being attacked by the queen and the bishop on e7, so bishop just takes, and knight takes, and rook to e1 from white, at pinning this knight to the king, and if the king was to castle, it loses the knight. So f6 from black, creating this square. If he decides not to castle, you could go to this square. So queen e2 from white, double attacking this knight on the pin, and so queen d7 to protect the knight. Rook to c1, rook a to c1 from white, c6 from black, and a brilliant move d5, preparing to put the knight here, and the queen can take, knight can take. So if this pawn takes, this knight could get to d4. Pawn takes, and so knight goes to d4. Queen goes away, not allowing if white knight was to play f7 now, trying to attack the knight just takes. So great move, knight e6, a very interesting move. And then black plays rook h8 to c8. Queen, white replies with queen g4, still protecting these knights, and also creating a checkmate plan here if white takes on g7. So g6 is a move from black, and then check, knight check, knight to g5 check, and if the pawn is to take, that's a free queen. So the queen goes away, queen goes to e8, the king rather goes to e8, and a brilliant move with rook takes e7 check. And the point of this move and why it's brilliant is if the king was to take check, rook c to e1 check. Let's play it out. At this point, if the king takes at this point, there's a check here, and where does the king go to at this point? If the king goes far away from the queen, loses the queen. There's still this thing. So if the queen goes away, loses the queen. And so if he comes here to protect the queen, there's the knight e6 check, say e7, knight to c5 check again, and he's going to win the queen for setting here. If the queen decides to take at this point, there's a check, and if the rook takes back, isn't that check, e7 check here, f8, and you can just see that white is up just full knight in the game. And if you trace the queen, it's all right. Trace the queen at this point, you take, and it's up on knight, and you would win. So that is why in the game the black king goes to f8, not taking the rook. Rook gives a check on f7, the king goes to g8, and another brilliant move on g7. Still you can't take, then, and taking the pawn with a check, rook to h7, queen goes back to g8, rook to g7, rook check g7, and here black is trying to look for a draw by repetition, but no, white plays queen to h4. It's a check, but giving away the knight. It's forced to take the knight, is the only move, and gives a check on h7. And there still you can't take the queen, because if you take the queen, that's checkmate, and at this point you're down material. So so f8 is forced, check, queen to h8 is a check, king goes to e7, queen goes to g7 check, e8 check from white, e8 is the only move, and g8 check, f7 check, the knight is there protecting the queen, king goes to d8 check, queen goes to f8 check, and the queen blocks, knight f7 check, and yeah, can you find the mate? Queen to d6, and that's checkmate. So this game, there was 2 sacrifices, 2 brilliant moves, and 9 great moves, and that's why it's the immortal game of William Steinitz. Next on our list of immortal games is the game between Vishy Anand and Levon Aronian. In this game, Vishy Anand went all in. Brilliancy here and there. Many people consider this game the best game ever. Some say it's the best game they have ever watched. And earlier this year, Vishy Anand lost his World Championship title to Magnus Carlsen. So this game was beautiful. Let's just get into it. Now, Vishy Anand was with the black pieces and Levon Aronian was with the white pieces. Levon opened up with d4. Black replied with d5. Levon went c4. Anand went c6. Levon went f3, and black f6, knight to f6. White played knight to c3, attacking that pawn for second time, and black protected it with e6. And so white went e3. These are all basic book moves. And knight to d7, bishop to d3 from white, and now takes back on c4. Pawn to b5, attacking the bishop on c3, c4, making it move back to d3. And now bishop d6 from black, and a castles, short castles, and queen to c2 from Aronian, doubling and attacking the pawn on the h7, pawn. b7 from bishop to b7 from Anand, further developing all his pieces. And now a3 from white, and c8 played by Anand. Knight jumps to g5, tripling the attack on the h7 pawn. Anand doesn't care, goes c5. Knight takes on the h7, and that is a mistake, because black totally ignores the threat. On his rook, and say, take my rook, I don't care, and goes knight to g4, going for his own attack. So white stops it by going f4, blocking the part of the bishop, and black just takes the pawn, attacking the knight as well. So white takes back. And another brilliant move from Anand, sacrificing his bishop, facing the bishop to open up the position totally. White does not take it, instead goes to attack the knight on the g4 square. Another brilliant move, sacrificing both the knight and the bishop at the same time, and still white does not take it, instead takes the knight, use the bishop to take knight on g4, and the bishop simply takes the pawn on d4. Bishop on c5 takes the pawn on d4, and with a check. So the king goes to h1, and now takes back. So now the knight that has been resting on the h7 square finally takes the rook, and that is an inaccuracy, because still doesn't take back, blocks the path with f5. The path of the queen is blocked with f5. So the knight jumps out, and so he's just won a free rook. So queen goes to f6, pawn to h3, pushing the knight away, and queen just takes on g6, takes the knight on g6, exchanging. And now white does not take the knight, because it opens up attacking square, and the king does not have any safe square. If it was to take, queen goes here and it's checkmate. Queen goes anywhere on the h file is checkmate, certified checkmate. So, and that is why it does not take the knight, instead attacks it with e2. And so queen goes h5, queen goes to d3. At this point the pawn could not take, as it's pinned now. So the queen goes to d3, and sacrificing the bishop yet again. At this point white resigns, because if the bishop on c2 takes the bishop on e3, and the knight takes and the queen takes back, queen takes h3 is a check, and on the next move is checkmate. Bishop on, because of the bishop on the b7 pawn is attacking this g2 pawn, and is pinned. So queen can take the pawn on h3, and the next move give a checkmate. And at this point, not seeing any way out, Levon Aronian resigned. And this game, my god, was so beautiful. 4 brilliancies from Anand, and This was just a beautiful game. The third Immortal game in our list is the game between Robert James Fisher and Donald Byrne. Robert James Fisher, a 13-year-old, playing the black pieces, and Donald Byrne with the white pieces. This game is tagged by many as the game of the century. And most chess fans, we see chess as an art. Chess games, we consider it as an art. And this game is the Mona Lisa. Let's get into it. White opens up with knight to f3. Black goes knight to f6. White goes c4. White goes g6, playing to fianchetto's bishop. White goes knight to c3. And black continues with the plan g7, fianchetto in that bishop. White plays d4. And short castle from black, and then bishop f4 from white, d5 from black. White goes b3, putting pressure on this pawn, not taking, and Fischer takes on c4. Queen takes back on c4. c6 played by Fischer. e4, taking total control of the center by Byrne. d7 from Fischer. The rook to d1 from Byrne, and bishop and knight to b6, placing the bishop, the knight on that file, and then queen to c5, looking to attack some pawns, though protected as of now. Bishop to g4, attacking the knight and is pinned to the rook on d1. And white follows suit, attacking the knight on the f file with bishop g5. And first brilliant move from Fischer, sacrificing the knight totally, just giving away the knight. And Byrne does not accept, instead goes back with the queen. Black exchange, takes knight, and there's an exchange with when the pawn takes back, and now the knight takes on e4. Bishop takes on e7, free pawn on e7, and attacking the queen and the rook. The queen goes away, and bishop out, just pointing towards the black king, just attacking. Another brilliant move from Bobby Fischer, sacrificing the knight once more, and still Byrne does not take it. There's a check. The rook goes to e8, and it's a check on the king. Can't block because the knight is there and they will take. And once again, Fischer sacrifices a bishop to e6. And once again, sacrifices bishop to e6 because now the knight is hanging, and if you take the bishop, takes back. So that's a sacrifice, sacrificing the knight for the third time. Not only the knight, there's a knight sacrifice. There's also free queen sacrifice. So this. It's just beautiful, man. Takes the free queen, because why not? But Fischer takes with the check. Moves away. And does not take the rook. Instead goes for another check. Comes out. Another check. Discover check. Taking the pawn with a discover check. King has to go back. Check again. Discover check again, and now takes the bishop with this discovered attack, and he still has his eyes on this. The queen can't take because the knight is being protected by this bishop, and so it's a double attack here. So the queen moves away, attacking this bishop, and the bishop and the knight. So if Bobby Fischer tries check, and if the king moves closer, he can't move away to take anything because this will be taken. So that's why Bobby Fischer protects this bishop, also attacking the queen, and the queen takes a free pawn. And now you take the hanging rook. Creates an escape. The white creates an escape square for the king because there's attacks coming towards this side, so it creates an escape square for the king, and black just takes a pawn. White to h2, hiding there, and black takes another pawn. Now white plays rook to e1, looking for an exchange of rooks. Black accepts, and instead of taking back, white gives a check first and then takes back. So now this is where the checkmate plan starts. This bishop eyeing this pawn with this here. This knight is was the only piece protecting this pawn. There's this king here as well, but if the knight moves away, you have this threat, and the knight moves away, firstly blocking this bishop, so this bishop is no longer attacking the pawn, but the attack is still there. So moves the knight away, and queen goes away. Queen goes to b8, so just protecting this section, so nothing is coming here to. And you'll be asking, why didn't the bishop come here? It's pinned, so the bishop can't come here to fuck both pieces. It's pinned as of now. So black just pushes the pawn, goes h4, and black blocks it with h5, so he can't move any further. And the knights now come out trying to attack things and get himself to the game, not just defend. Now black king simply steps forward to g7, and now it's completely safe where it is. So now white king goes to g1, and there's where it starts. Bishop to c5, check on the king, on the white king, and the white king goes to f1, and this is the wrong square. White king is supposed to go to h2 instead, but it goes to f1, into f1, and here there's first mate in 5. So first gives a check with the knight, so the king goes to e1, check bishop to b4, first to d1, check bishop to b3, first to c1, another check bishop to e2. Can't come here because the bishops are there, so he goes there, and knight check to the king, protecting this rook as well, and also taking 2 squares away from it. So the white king has only 1 square, and that's c1, and that is only the spot he has, and that is why. Can you find the mating one? If you said rook to c2, you are correct, because that's mate in 1. And for our final game, is this Immortal game is between Adolf Anderssen and Leonel Kizeritsky. This game was the first Immortal game, and it was beautiful. Lots of sacrifices here and there from Adolf, and let's get into this masterpiece. So Adolf is with the white pieces and Leonel is with the black pieces. White opens up with e4, black replies e5, and white goes for f4. Black takes on f4, bishop to c4 from white, and queen to h4 check. Queen moves away, and then b5 from black, and this is a mistake because it allows white to take. But now black develops the knight to f6, white develops knight f3, and queen goes to h6 because the knight was attacking the queen. Now pawn to d3, knight to h5. It's a mistake by the engine, but knight to h4, queen to g5 from the black side, and then knight to f5. c6 attacking the bishop. Bishop has to go away, and the bishop does not. At that point, I felt Adolf maybe thought it was a brilliant move, but here it was just a blunder. And so okay, at this point, attacking the bishop, but white counter attack by attacking the knight. So the knight goes away and still leaves the bishop. White does not move the bishop, instead brings the rook to g1, and now black stakes on b5. Pawn to h4 attacking the queen. Queen has to go away, and pawn goes to h5. Queen comes back to g5, and white's queen goes to f3. Knight to g8, creating an escape square for the queen, because the queen seems locked by its pieces, and if white was to take the pawn on f4, the queen is trapped. So the knight has to go back to g8. This is an inaccuracy by the computer, but it's a totally logical move. Bishop takes on f4, and the queen goes to f6, where the knight was occupying earlier. Now knight to c3 from white's piece, and bishop to c5, attacking the rook on g1 square, and knight to d5 from white, attacking the queen, and the queen takes on b2, takes the pawn on b2, and a blunder from Adolf, giving the knight away, giving the rook away. So this is a blunder by the computer. What the computer suggests black should have done was to just take the rook on a1 with the queen, but at that point it was like a normal move to make. So bishop takes on g1, and the pawn moves to e5. This is a miss because white could move the rook away now, not allowing queen to take, but the queen takes it. So queen goes to e2, free from any checks at this point. Any checks black has, there's no check for black now, because if he checks on d1, queen just takes, the king just takes, so there's no safe check here. So knight goes to a6. Knight goes to a6, trying to develop his pieces and bring them into the game, but yeah, knight just takes on g7 with a check on the king, on the black king, and the black king only has one square at this point, and that's d8, because the bishop is covering the other squares, and the knight is checking it. So the king goes to d8, which is first, and at this point there's mate in 2. Can you find it? Bishop, your plan, you can't make bishop, place the bishop on d6 to e7, because the knight will take, the knight on the g8 square will take. And so with that in mind, Adolf played the brilliant sacrifice, queen to f6, giving away the queen, and when the knight take, checkmate with the bishop. And this was the first Immortal game, and how beautiful was this? Attacked by the bishop and the knight taking all the other squares it could go to, locked in by this other bishop. This was a beautiful game, and this was the first Immortal game.